Welcome, Yamhill County, to Speaking Frankly. I'm your host, Howie Harkema, and our tagline is, "And how we doin'?" Today I have Casey Kulla, who is running for candidate of Board of Commissioners Position 1 against Stan Primozic. And welcome back, Casey.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
It's awesome to have you back. Congratulations on your running and made it to the general election.
That's right. That's right. I tied the incumbent in the primary. That's what I like to say.
So you have to be excited. You've probably been traveling like crazy to hit all of Yamhill County.
Yes, yes. I spent a lot of time putting in signs as much as anything. And we have our big, the farm's box truck, the delivery vehicle, has I think they're 66 square feet each signs on the side of them. And boy, that's a really good way to get people honking and waving and happy. So that's been my ambassador vehicle.
That's awesome. Yeah. And yesterday I was headed toward Lafayette and coming back to McMinnville and saw some large signs out in a field on my way back.
Yeah, you know, because I'm a farmer, well, I don't know if it's because I'm a farmer, but we know a lot of farmers, right? We know a lot of people who we might not even share the same politics in the national level, the political spectrum thing, but we know each other and trust each other. You know, if one of them was doing something, I would support them because I'm like, oh, we share a lot of common ground.
Sure.
And it's felt that way.
And it's so local.
Yes.
And that's awesome.
Yes, exactly. I don't have to talk about national politics because this is the place that matters to us right now.
Really matters right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, what is your background and how has it prepared you for this office?
That's right. So I have I have a biochemistry undergraduate degree, and I worked in a protein biochemistry lab for a number of years. And then I worked as a plumber while I was in undergraduate studies for the university. My wife and I moved to the mountains for undergraduate school, and I worked as a plumber there. And we came back to the west side of the mountains to Washington for graduate school, and I got a degree in ecology. And then we started a farm. And so my background is really as a farmer and a scientist. The last 13 years, my wife and I have been full-time farmers here in Yamhill County.
Yeah.
And as part of that, when I've had frustrations or I felt like decisions were being made that weren't aligned with what I knew people wanted in the county, I kept thinking back to that, oh, they don't have a scientist on the Board of Commissioners. I'm like, oh, they don't have a farmer, so they don't have a voice in the room making the decisions who knows what's happening in Yamhill County, in the rural areas.
Right.
And not having a rural resident on the board, too, really hits home then when decisions about land use are made. It's one thing to be in town and have the Riverbend landfill voted to be expanded. It's another thing to live beside Riverbend landfill or down the road from it.
Sure, absolutely. And knowing all of the farmers and being a scientist really is a totally different kind of scenario.
It's totally different, and I feel like we need a lot of different voices and perspectives and experiences on the board. And I feel like at this point what we need is a commissioner who has the experience and education and temperament to really work with all of Yamhill County people, not just the little groups that maybe you have the most experience with.
Right, there's niches within that, sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about affordable housing for a moment. There's a lot of talk in Yamhill County across all of the townships about affordable housing, especially in McMinnville right now.
Absolutely.
And there doesn't seem to be any.
We could say the same thing, especially in Newburgh. Because when I'm in Newburgh, that's the conversation that starts things off. So it really is across the county. I mean, it's across Western Oregon as well. Right.
All of Oregon's dealing with this.
Yeah. I was speaking with some people earlier today, and their perspective with running a company is that they want to create jobs within their company that can afford the housing that we have.
Yes.
Which I thought was an interesting way to think about one side or the other. I usually think of the stock and the supply. Like, what can we do to get more housing that has a lower price point, or a lower rental, or keeping rents low so that they march up faster than our incomes. And they were thinking about it from the, well, how can we encourage other businesses to have family wage jobs? I thought, oh, right, actually afford the housing, not have affordable housing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And we probably should be coming at it from both perspectives, realistically.
So how do you feel about tenant alliances and protections for those people that not necessarily can have their rent raised every 6 months?
Right. I don't know how it would work in practice in Yamhill County, but I know I can think of at least one example, and that's over, is it Booth Bend Road?
Yeah.
Where you come in from Lowe's, there's a small, a relatively good-sized trailer park, and I believe that the tenants either bought it or came together to assert some level of control over it.
Right.
Do you remember? It was in 2008, maybe, that this happened, and at the time I thought, wow, how great that they're really taking matters into their own hands. They're saying, we need to have this space and know that we're going to be able to be here.
Right,
and so
tenant owned.
Yes, it gives stability to the situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bimart, employee owned.
Right.
Only a trailer park.
Yeah, and I feel like that diversity of ownerships within the thing is really important too.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about homelessness in Yamhill County.
Yeah.
With the numbers gone up another to over 1,300.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be decreasing in any way.
Yeah.
What are we going to do in the future?
And I believe that we have a higher percentage than a much higher percentage than even cities like New York City.
Yes.
I saw their number of I want to say that there were 7,000 people who were counted in New York City, and they have 8 million people. Or whatever.
Exactly, and we've only got 100,000
right.
in Yamhill County.
Right, so it's 1.5%,
Yeah.
Somewhere in there,
Yeah.
right? Well, I feel very strongly that everybody needs to be able to make their own decisions for themselves. Sometimes people speak very strongly about wanting to get homeless folks, people who need safe housing off of streets, for example.
Right.
But what I always want to remind them is that we need to allow people to make their own decisions too.
Sure.
That like power of autonomy, especially when you don't have anything else, or everything else seems transient or uncertain. The ability to make your own decisions is really important. And it's also really important to me that we not criminalize people for not having housing.
Well, the Ninth Circuit Court just ruled that not letting people sleep in public spaces is cruel and unusual punishment.
Yep. So if we don't, the part of it was that if there are not enough shelter beds, you can't criminalize sleeping in public area spaces, right? Was that part of it?
That's part of it, but the other part was if you can't stay at that shelter due to another reason.
That's right. Yeah.
You shouldn't be treated as if you're a criminal because you're sleeping in the park.
And that decision is going to affect many, many communities.
Oh, it's going to affect the entire
in
United States.
Yeah. Well, I am very supportive of what you're working on. I also want to, I feel like the county needs to, and this is just echoing things that, say, the News Register says. People are saying this, that the county needs to step up and take the lead in Yamhill County rather than having cities try to do what they can. I think we need to be the ones to be organizing things, taking the lead, and also stepping up with capital funds. The county has the money to do things like buy a piece of land and set up like essentially a trailer park or an RV park as a starting point. And we can talk about things like tiny houses, but to have a space that's safe for them and that gets them off of streets, where there's garbage and water and sewer and showers. And it doesn't have to cost a lot to do that. Right,
it doesn't. And we can do it.
We can.
We just need to hit the right people at the right time.
Yeah, or not hit them. But
well, not hit them, but hit them with the ideas.
Yes, present that and be ready to take action. Yeah.
So let's talk about sustainable economic development for a moment.
That sounds great. I was talking with these folks earlier today, and I found some common ground even though we have different life experiences, because we both want to have to emphasize homegrown businesses that have really well-paying jobs.
Yes.
And from my perspective, what the county can do in order to have jobs that people's children want to stick around for. We have a great way of life, and it's a beautiful place, but people have to leave if they don't feel like they have job satisfaction and they can't afford it, or they're not educated properly for the jobs that exist,
right.
Or they're overeducated for the jobs that exist. So what I'd like to see, George Fox is opening in the next bit here, what they call a maker space. Mm-hmm. I feel it funny because I'm not a maker, I'm a farmer,
But you are a maker.
I've been a plumber, I am not a maker. It's language that's current, and I'm living in the past, I guess. But I think of it as an incubator lab where you bring an idea and you have the space, and other people over here, they're working on some idea or some product, and over here, and all those people in the same spaces, that's the county's responsibility. Can be so powerful for our community, especially because then if the county is right here and all these people are making new ideas and building things in it, then we're already have a relationship with them. So when they look for a piece of land industrial land to open their new place, or they look for office space, then we say, oh, we know where to send you,
right.
And we're going to help you, and you're going to help us. So that's one thing that I feel like we can do now is build a space, a commercial kitchen, laminar flow hoods for working with chemicals, like
sure.
The whole deal. I was actually looking downtown. I was like, there's spaces downtown where you can do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's being more proactive rather than reactive, which
yes.
we tend to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to be looking in the future and figuring out, okay, we are going to have this problem. Say, like when baby boomers are completely out of the workforce, who's going to be doing those roles of leadership? Who is going to be taking the economic initiative? So it's exciting to me. And we also have a lot of people in Yamhill County who work remotely. They work for somebody else out there in the world. And if we can keep that knowledge and like intellectual capital here,
sure.
That's really exciting to me.
Well, what's interesting about what you've just said is there's also that part which is the manufacturing, mm-hmm. where the baby boomers were really involved,
right.
and not as many people are getting associate's degrees and getting
right.
internships and all of that anymore.
Right.
So
right.
who's going to take those places mm-hmm. as well?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about communities and schools.
Okay.
So what have you seen as you've gone on your whirlwind tour?
I see a lot of communities that want to be connected to each other, but because of their roads, there's a disconnect. A lot of communities that want to, for example, Yamhill and Carlton, they're working on a trail, right? So
right.
that they can communicate without having to go on the road. There's a lot of people who are starting to feel like each little small town doesn't have to be on its own, that we can be connected. And that's really, I think, one of the roles of the commissioner is to connect those towns so that we have a shared identity.
Well, I think that's really smart because it seems like each township kind of is on its own.
Right.
And we could be so much better if we had a common database, mm-hmm. so to speak,
right.
of all the towns taking pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, and there's things that a small town just doesn't have the resources to do.
Of course.
The city of Willamina has a drinking water infrastructure that's slowly breaking down, but because they don't, it hasn't failed. They don't have I think it's the EPA, won't come in and provide them with the funds to rebuild it.
I see.
But grants are out there, and they can seek out a grant, but they on their own don't have the space, the time, the ability to do that. And they've come to the county saying, hey, can we have some of your grant writers' time? And I feel like that's a perfect opportunity for the county to step in and say, we can help you with this.
Exactly.
And for me, water is a big deal, water and soil. And so, when a community is like, we need help with our water system, I hear it.
Yeah.
No.
And you have to, because water and food are the two main sustenances
absolutely
that keep everybody alive.
Yeah.
And we don't want people dying.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So representation to the entire community, including Latino rights.
Oh yeah. Well, let's take that in two pieces.
Yes.
In terms of the representation of the entire community, I am going to make a motion on my first day at a formal meeting at the commissioners that we expand the Board of Commissioners to 5 positions. And those would be elected by district. So there would be district representation throughout the county.
Right.
Be like the West Valley plus part of McMinnville, Yamhill Carlton plus part of McMinnville,
Right.
Newburgh, Amity and Dayton with a little bit of McMinnville and McMinnville. And hopefully that was 5.
I think
that was
you
5.
did it.
Yeah, okay. And that'll expand the board to allow more different kinds of people to be on the board making those decisions.
Right.
You know, from different perspectives and experiences and temperaments. But it also means that people in the West Valley or people in far northern Yamhill, that they will have somebody to go to and somebody who will be held accountable by them.
Yeah,
so
a point
I have a
person,
problem.
yeah.
We need to talk about this. It also means it's less expensive and less time consuming to run for office, which lowers the bar. It means that more people will be able to do it.
Sure. And I know that when Rick Olson was running for commissioner,
Okay.
he was also wanting to go to 5.
Well, great. What a good idea. Rick and I share a lot of common values.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
But on the Latino rights, or
Yes.
I think of it as immigrant rights because there are a number of different folks who have immigrated within a generation or two to Yamhill County.
Yeah.
I mean, I immigrated to Yamhill County.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier for me to do things like vote and feel safe in this community. But one thing that I want to do in order to make it clear to our immigrant family and friends and neighbors and bosses and supervisors and teachers is I want to say you are safe and you also matter economically and culturally to our community.
Right.
And one way to do that is to provide more funds to Lutheran Community Services Immigration Legal Team. They have a program with paralegals who are certified to do immigration law.
Sure.
And I think that if we provide more funding to them and have the ability to market it so that people know that those services are available, we can have more and more people in the county improving their immigration status.
Right.
And there's an economic argument to that, but there's also a health argument because when people live in fear, they get sick.
Boy, do
I mean,
they.
when I am
Sure.
stressed or sick or fearful or worried, I get sick.
Sure.
And the same goes for people who are living with that fear every day. Yeah, and we are a community, and so I feel like we need to take the steps to make sure that people are safe within it.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Munoz is doing some great work out there
Yes.
for Yamhill County as well.
Yeah.
So, the crumbling of America's roads and bridges. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. In Yamhill County, just like in many other areas, there's a lot of bridges that were built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And those bridges were not built to the standards that we have now.
Sure.
And they're not built to the standards for surviving a magnitude 9 earthquake.
Right.
And that's, to me, the biggest part of that, is that if we didn't need to worry about, or if we didn't need to be mindful of a magnitude 9 earthquake, we could slowly be improving a bridge here or a bridge there or rebuilding a road.
Right.
But the idea that there is a possibility of a giant earthquake anytime,
Right, because
that will
of the
separate,
Cascadia, right.
Yeah, the Cascadia subduction
Right.
zone. A major earthquake, we have 146 bridges that the county is responsible for in here, or 133, excuse me. 46 of them are rated by Oregon Department of Transportation as being deficient in some way. And of that, there's about 22 that are severely structurally deficient.
Okay.
And those bridges connect all of the county in different ways. Right now, there's a wonderful map that shows what Yamhill County would look like in the event of a big earthquake when bridges get cut off. We call it the Islands of Yamhill County map because essentially the county will be turned into islands.
Exactly.
And there's 15 of them, and McMinnville is one of them because there's bridges all the way around that will be cut off.
Every direction.
Every direction. It's amazing. It's got its own little island drawn around it. And so what I'd like to do is lobby for state funds, and there are state funds available.
Sure.
But also set up a schedule and say, okay, this is how many bridges we're going to fix this year, and this is how many we're going to fix this year. And I feel like we should have a schedule of within 8 years, we have fixed at least one bridge connecting all those different islands.
Right.
So that at the very least, even if we can't go down that road, we can get from place to place within the county.
An alternative.
So we're still connected.
Right.
Because that's really important in the case of an earthquake.
Yeah.
We're going to need to rely upon ourselves as a community. And so to have connectivity, literal connectivity with the bridges is really important.
That's awesome. Let's talk about recreation, parks and outdoor spaces, because I know you're getting a lot of talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of people come up to me and they say, I want a park on the Yamhill. I want to have better access to the Yamhill River. And someone even reminded me, you know, when you spend time in the place, you see it and you see the things that need to happen with it. You see the cleanup that needs to happen. You develop a love for it.
Right.
And the Yamhill is nearly invisible to us because of its high bank profile,
right.
And how it's super sinusoidal, and it's covered with trees on both sides, and it's all private property. And I feel like so that people ask me, I want to have a park to the river. I said, okay, well, let's work on that. You know, like we can do that. One thing that the city of Newburgh would like to do is develop a non-motorized watercraft launch immediately upstream on the Willamette from Rogers Landing, which is a county park.
Right.
And there are reasons that the county has stalled in letting them have permission to do that. Because the county owns the land, it's an old landfill. And it has its problems because it's an old landfill site.
Get that.
Right? But there's a perfect boat launch spot at it. And my view is that the county can be the one to step up and say, okay, we have a motorized launch here, let's develop a non-motorized launch there.
Sure.
And then the city of Newburgh wants to have is working on a master plan to redevelop the river, river frontage,
sure.
Especially with the mill there being shut down.
Sure.
And so from my perspective, if the county steps up and says, all right, this is what we're going to do here, now do what you want to make it really interesting, I think that would be great.
So let's talk about transparency and accountability in government real quick.
That sounds great. We'll do it real quick. A lot of people want to know what's happening in government, and they don't feel like they know. And in your mind conjures up all kinds of things that are happening behind closed doors. What I'd like to see is some kind of way of communicating, whether it be a text message or an email or a Facebook posting that tells people exactly what I did every day last week.
Sure.
We can do like looking ahead, but sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like to be fully accountable, you say, look, here's all the people I met with, and here are the things we talked about.
Right.
And I feel like that is a way to give people faith in their decision makers.
Sure.
And then they know that they have a say in it because they get to see what's happening.
Exactly.
I'd like to be in a position where people know exactly what I'm doing and who I'm talking to and how the decisions that I'm making are being made.
Very good. So I'm going to give you an open time to look into this camera here and tell the voters
I'm not just looking at you
in
now,
Yamhill County, well, why they should vote for you, and I'm glad you don't have to look at me now. So look in the camera too. And
all right. Well, I'm a farmer, and I'm a rural resident, and I'm a scientist, which means that I know about land use and how it affects people. I know about our most important cultural and economic industry, which is to say farming in Yamhill County. And I know how to make decisions based upon science. And I also know how to respectfully, I want to talk to you, respectfully disagree with other people. That's what science training is all about, is having an idea, doing the work to prove it, and then having people go, I don't know. And you say, oh, why not? Yeah. Why do you not know? Okay, let's look at that. Let's talk about that. Let's figure it out so that we make better decisions. And as a commissioner, my priorities will be centered around planning ahead, for our future so that we're proactive and not reactive.
Very good.
Getting ready for a magnitude 9 earthquake, getting ready for climate change, getting ready for having buildings that are needing different uses. But I'm also really focused on valuing our natural resources. So putting recreation and farming and logging and forest management and soil management and water management first in decision-making processes.
Right.
Really respecting land use, really respecting urban growth boundaries. I see I'm talking to you again.
That's okay.
That's good. Doing things like saying, okay, let's close Riverbend landfill respectfully, safely, economically. And then finally, I want to be the person on the Board of Commissioners who is an advocate for people who don't feel safe or who don't feel vulnerable or who simply realistically don't have a voice in our county.
Exactly.
And we need somebody on the board who's willing to listen to folks who look different from them, who have different life experiences. And I can be that person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's talk about upcoming meet and greets. I know that there's one tonight at the Carnegie Room, but this isn't going to air until Saturday.
That's right.
Forward from here.
Yes. We have the next one will be Tuesday, October 11th,
Yes,
I want to say.
that's correct.
11th, at noon at the Grand Ballroom in downtown McMinnville.
That's correct.
And so that'll be the City Club and the Chamber of Commerce, the McMinnville City Club and Chamber of Commerce, sponsoring that. And I believe that it'll be just the incumbent, Mr. Primozic, and me at that. And we'll talk for a little while and we'll answer questions from the audience.
Very good.
So that'll be the next opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beyond that, before November 6th,
Let's see if I can remember.
Katie, where are you?
I believe that the next one will be October 20th.
I think you're right.
Kiwanis, Thursday noon Kiwanis.
Also
at the Grand Ballroom.
That's correct.
And that will be more of a formal situation with McMinnville Community Media present, KLYC.
Right.
Some other folks, the News Register, everybody's sponsoring it. It's a
Demographic,
media event
yeah.
where we're going to present everything to the media. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so there are many more opportunities to talk with me or listen or have questions.
So how can the community assist you?
Oh, man. A letter to, if you have a particular passion and you know that I share that, you can write a letter to the editor. That's a powerful way to do it. You can host a yard sign.
Yes.
Also another powerful way to say, hey, this is a person who is important to me. You can get out there and vote. Ballots are going to come out October 19th.
Yes.
And that's a really important thing. And it's also important to remind your friends and neighbors. And then on Facebook, Instagram, social media, it really is powerful to connect with me and then connect your friends, your neighbors, your family through Facebook or social media accounts.
Sure. Those are all great opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, is there anything you'd like to finalize with? We have about 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. Well, let's look at this. We've got through everything. This is amazing.
I know, and we did it on time. Amazing.
Let's go with
get out and vote.
Breathe and then get out and vote. And build, I don't know, unity. I feel like it's really important at a time when we have really strong negative discourse to say it's okay, we can all share common values.
And you've seen that throughout Yamhill County.
It's so amazing about things that are specific to the county. Yep. It's powerful.
Casey, thank you so much for being on today.
Good questions.
And folks, thank you very much for watching. And be sure and get out and vote. And if you're not registered, get registered.
And look for me at your neighborhood ballot drop box, because I'm going to have stickers that say I voted, and I'm going to put one on you. Well, you can put it on yourself.
Thank you for watching.